Welcome to MSP Unplugged, episode number 37. Is it worth it? Or is IT worth it? I'm your host, Jeff Halash. This is our live show where we discuss the different ways to run your business, whether it's managed services, consulting, break fix, or anything in between. Let me introduce the co-host I have with me, Paco Lebron from ProdigyTeks. Paco, how are you doing?
Oh, better than good, better than most, or as a good friend of mine likes to say, better than I deserve. And I owe him a nickel for every time I say it.
That's awesome. It's great to have you here. And this is just we kind of changed the show up a little bit because we had a last minute cancellation. Not a big deal. We're going to get this person on here in the future eventually. And we just wanted to come together, and it's just you and me, and we're just going to share from our hearts and maybe have a little cry session. I don't know. We'll work on that.
Maybe a little fun on the way.
There you go. All right. So let's go ahead and go into our tips or tricks or stories that we could learn from, and you're up.
Oh, I'm okay. Not surprised, but
that would be you.
That would be me. Yeah. So I guess my tip for this week is follow up with your clients that you've separated from. And the best way to go about that is there was a pretty big client of mine that around last year that we decided to go our separate ways. And it was more of just the amount of work that they wanted us to do. And at the time being a single tech, just could not fulfill everything that they were requesting along with everyone else. So I basically made the judgment call like, yeah, I'm going to miss the money, but just to make sure that there's no bad feelings and we just can't adhere to what they would need for us to do, we decided to go our separate ways. Well, recently I've expanded. We've done a lot of things to take on a lot more growth and bigger clients and more project-based needs. So I actually reached out to the two partners of the actual company, and just to see how their IT is working and all this other stuff. So the main partner actually contacted me to basically discuss more kind of like what's going on with the current business, but he's actually starting a new business and wants to bring me on to help because we always had a great relationship and the friction really was with the other partner. So long story short, got a new client just by sending out that email just to catch up and see if there's a possibility for creating a synergy again. And that's just one of those testaments to everyone where you hear no and it's not really a no. It's just you need to push them toward that maybe. So, this was a lot of time. Like I said, last year, I just shot them a little email just to see how they were doing. So that's kind of been our campaign for this month. Has been more of the security awareness month. And also going into reaching out to clients that either went a different direction or just decided that we weren't a good fit as far as pricing and things like that because they were too small, just to see how they were doing since we haven't reached out for so long. So something to think about as you kind of figure out what you're going to do for your prospecting list and try and get some new clients.
Very good. Yeah, that's it's always fun when you leave those doors of opportunity open and they come back and you're able to close those deals later on down the road. So I like because a lot of people, I think they look at if they get a no, man, it's like it's like depression time. Oh, I got to know. Nobody wants my services. And that's definitely not the case. It is about timing and just being open to taking care of somebody. As long as you get in front of somebody and let them know who you are, what you do, that will always come back. Even if it's not with that particular person, a lot of times they might even pass your name on to somebody else and say, hey, check this guy out or check this gal out because they came to me and they look like they're legit and they might work with your size business or whatever that might be. All right. My tip is probably an oldie, and I've probably said it before, and I apologize I don't apologize. I say what I want when I want because I can. And so that is don't procrastinate. And I was just thinking about this. I have a lot of things going on here. I am literally the guy, when you look in a dictionary under contests for a one-man fanny kicking contest, that's me. And I'm always busy. And I just told my wife this morning, I said, would you please pull the ambition out of my brain and just let me be a slug, please, please. But when I was looking back, I was laid off from my regular job for 7 weeks, and that was towards the beginning of this year. And I look back on the things now. My wife would argue that I probably needed the rest, so she was fine with me just chilling out, playing video games, hanging out with my kids, doing whatever. But when I look back, I go, man, there's a lot of things that I need to get done, not only around the house, but just in general. I'm always updating, making things a little bit better, trying to improve. And when you're doing that, you get all these projects. And so I wish I would have really just kind of buckled down and said, okay, you know what? I have this opportunity. And this is anytime you have an opportunity, just take it. What do they say? How do you eat an elephant? Not that we're into eating elephants. Don't send me any nasty emails. But you eat an elephant one bite at a time because it's a big, huge thing. And you want to take it just a little bit at a time. That's all you can do. You chew it, you swallow it, and you're done. So a lot of times, if you go back, and I know this, but just because you know something doesn't mean that you necessarily follow it. I'm guilty all the time of not following my own advice. So do as I say, not as I do. But anyways, going back to procrastinating, just take it one thing at a time. And there's a book that I haven't read, but I heard a synopsis on it. It's called The One Thing. And I actually think I have it in Audible. I just haven't listened to it yet. But The One Thing, it basically talks about taking one thing and diving into that and basically getting that off of your plate, completing it, and then moving on to the next thing. But I'm going to take it back even a little bit further. If you have a big project that you're working on, whether it be a home improvement or something, documentation in your business or something along those lines, or updating your office, whatever it might be, take that a little bit at a time. And when you think about it, if you think about it like this, an hour a day going into something, and this has been brought up on the show many times, but an hour a day, that's 7 hours a week. 365 hours in a year. If you just did an hour a day, really going in on something and not just being scattered all over the place, that's 365 hours. Now, let's say you just did it during the work week. I don't know what the math is. It doesn't matter. You have a calculator, you do it. But you can take that amount of time, even if you only did it 5 days a week. Let's say you did it during the work week, and on the weekends, you took everything off. Or, as some of you like to do, work projects on the weekends and, not have a life. But that's a whole nother subject. So I just say, take it a little bit at a time, improve yourself over time, and don't get discouraged. I have so many projects sitting in front of me. I was out yesterday mudding the garage. Yeah, not something I love to do. A lot of people go, well, you could hire somebody to do it. Yes, you can. But in certain situations, I have a garage full of stuff, which means the only way I would have that a person would be able to do that is I would have to empty the garage out of everything. And I don't know where I would put everything. So that's an issue. So I'm doing it a little bit at a time. I'm taking 1/4 of the garage, move some stuff out of the way, mudding the walls, and then eventually going to paint and rehang some stuff up. Not a big deal. And it doesn't, I mean, it takes me a few hours a day, but if I do it every day, then eventually I'll get stuff done. Of course, then I have things like, this podcast that, kind of interrupt that stuff. Another project that I'm working on is I bought a standing desk. So I want to get, standing up sometimes. And I wanted to have a desk with enough space on it for all the things that I have so I could put it on the desktop and have my monitors raised and everything kind of all inclusive. So that desk is sitting outside my office right now, and I'm still on my old desk. And I actually have a new mixer I'm going to bring into the fold here and see if I can make that work a little bit better. It's a little smaller profile than what I'm using right now, which is a big honking beast of a monster, but it works good. So I just want to get something a little more low profile. So anyways, don't procrastinate. Deal with things a little bit at a time. And hey, if you miss a day, don't worry about it. The next day, every new day, you can always start over, and that's okay. So don't get down on yourself when you don't get things done. I know I do it all the time. I get down on myself. I should have worked harder. I should have did this. I should have did that. The reality is there's only 24 hours in a day. 8 of those you need to be sleeping. So you plan for the rest of those that are left. It's not, not as much as you think. So when you look at that, just take it a little bit at a time. All right. That's my tip.
So the more important question
I
is,
got
what kind
a
of standing
uplift.
desk did you get?
It's uplift. Yeah, uplift. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have a
Yes.
Flexispot. So
Okay.
42-inch, I think. 42. Yeah. So 44. Because I have one at the office, which I believe is a human
nice.
scales one that the co-working space provides and all that. So we have 2 of those inside my office, and then a couch and all that other stuff. But then so I wanted something to replicate it, or I wanted a standing desk here while I was working remote for those months. So I went ahead and bought that, and it actually worked out really well because it actually goes higher. So since I'm a pretty tall guy anyway, I actually prefer this desk than I do at the one in the office. So I may end up actually just purchasing another one and then giving them that one back so they can put it in another office.
Very cool. Yeah, mine's 80 by 30. Big desk.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot I think it was I can't remember. I bought the tabletop, and then I bought the wireframe as well. So, and I think Rick Smith from Renactus also bought a standing desk too. But what he did was he just bought the frame, and then he actually went to, I think, Home Depot and bought a whole hunk of a piece of wood that he's staining to kind of put it as his tabletop. So for those that are looking to kind of lower the cost, you can always do that as well. The frame is really what costs probably the most, I think, because all the mortars and stuff, but you could get that probably fairly cheap without the tabletop. But I think I paid about $280 for mine. Was an Amazon special. So if anyone cares, I can always put the link in the show notes for everyone, and then probably Jeff wherever he got his.
Yep, I will definitely do that. And the other thing too is I was looking at desks because what I wanted was I have a certain space that I can fit right here. And so I have a file cabinet next to me, and I have a desk, and I have a keyboard tray, which I'm going to get rid of all that. So I wanted everything on top of the desktop. Well, in order to do that, I kind of needed a little more depth because right now I have like 24 inches of depth. I wanted the whole 30. And so I have monitor mounts right now that raises everything up on arms, and I can rotate them around and stuff like that, except for my main monitor that just sits on the desk. Because it's a big, heavy monitor, and I didn't really want to put it on an arm, and the legs don't really take up that much room. So, but yeah, that's the other thing too is I was also looking at desks at IKEA, and you can get that same size tabletop. Like I think it was I was actually going to I was going to do the whole length of the wall, or almost the whole length of the wall, and it was like a 96 by 24, I think it was. 96 by 24. I literally think these things were like $47. And I think they were like a half-inch thick. So they're not real thick, but you can buy the legs. And here's the other thing too. They have adjustable legs for $15 a piece. And you basically just screw these in whatever pattern you want for that particular table. So you can basically configure your own desk, and you can get a fairly inexpensive one. Or like Paco said, hey, go get, one of these stands for raising and lowering the desk, and then you can just put your own tabletop on it. But IKEA would be a inexpensive place, I think, to go. Plus, if you ruined it, spilled water on it or something like that, you could rip it out and put another one in. Not a big deal. Yep. So that's definitely a way to do it too. All right, so Paco, just you and me. So let's talk about, is IT
on the
really
road
worth
again?
It? What's that?
I said on the road again, but
on the road again.
But yeah, I mean, IT is worth it. I mean, I think it's a layered question.
Let's peel back the onion, please.
Peel back the onion. So is IT worth it? I think if you have a passion for it, and it's going to get into the whole cliche of you got to love what you do, and it's not really work and stuff like that. I mean, I think, what you said earlier too, being an ambitious person is a trait that you kind of have to have when you're starting your own business and wanting to do this. if you're in it for the money, it's not going to be worth it for you. I think, the payoff on the amount of time invested, you probably won't see those returns very soon. And it might just not be something you want. Now, if you're doing it as a side gig, you got a nice little part, you got a full-time job, it's really great. You're running your business part-time, you want it to be part-time, that there's no problem with that. There's no issues. You can find the right clients that prefer that. You can keep your overhead low, and there's things that work around it, right? And I know a lot of IT companies that run their business this way and are really happy with what they do. Then there are those that want to do more, and sometimes you're going to have to face the hiccups and ups and downs, but that's kind of the whole, that's what entrepreneurship is. It's trying to even out as much of the roller coaster as possible. There are always going to be bumps, but you want to make sure you have it stay as semi enough to a point where you're not having too many dips going down, and you don't want too many dips going up really high, because it's going to be a really hard low as you get down from that high. So, and everything in moderation, I think, is a big thing. But going back to the original question, is IT worth it? For me, I think it is. I think I've been there with many portions of my journey to where I'm at now, on kind of calling it quits several times, just saying, it's probably not worth it. But being stubborn and just again being that ambitious person of, I really didn't want to go back to corporate America at that time, just kind of made it all work out in the end.
Well, you make a couple good points there, and that is, when you think about just running a business itself, there is going to be, so I guess let's peel it back a little bit. So when you start off, if you start off in a business like this, where it's IT, information technology, you're basically, because I know, there's probably people in the audience that still don't know what that stands for. Because I didn't for a long time. So I'm one of those. But when you look at what it takes to run a business, and you look at, okay, I start this thing because I'm good at technology. I have fun. I love tinkering. That's usually where it starts, man. I fixed my own computer. Oh, I built my own computer. Now I set up a network, and okay, I'm running a network in my own system. I've set up a server. I've run a server, and okay, so I'm doing all these different things. And then you kind of branch out into, well, I can get paid to do this. And that's what I like to do. So when you go out there, here's the thing. Anything that you do that is worthwhile will become, I don't want to say a drudgery, but it becomes a job. And when it becomes a job, this is where you have to protect yourself. It's not necessarily that this is not something you should do, because as Paco said, you're going to have your highs and lows. Guess what? Life 101, you're going to have your highs and lows. That's just the way it is. Suck it up, Buttercup, and let's move on. So when you think about how to maybe do something in your business, this is why podcasts like this, where we bring information about, hey, some of the things we've gone through, or some of the things we've done, and maybe here's some of the things you can avoid. And some of you are so rock-headed out there, like we were, that you'll just do it anyways, and you'll go, I wish I would have listened to Jeff and Paco. But at the end of the day, sometimes that is the only way that you're going to learn anyways. So when you look at, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, when you look at making mistakes, I don't believe in mistakes. I believe in learning opportunities, and you can learn from those mistakes and be better off for it. So when you look at IT or any business that you're going to go into, I mean, let's look at it like this. Let's take because I've been studying something lately, and it's fascinating me. So I'm looking on the internet, and I'm really trying to figure out, number one, I laugh because we do this show on YouTube only because it's fairly easy and people seem to watch it and they enjoy it, I guess, to listen to talking heads. I've never understood it. I don't have time for that. I listen to everything in audio form in my car when I'm mudding and taping walls, or, washing the dishes or anything. So when you look at what people tend to do from a standpoint of, they like to watch internet videos of talking heads. Well, I've been watching some streamers and trying to figure out that whole, how do these people make a popular stream where people watch them do things like game or maybe build a PC or whatever. There's a lot of streamers out there that do different things. And I only know those two because those are the only things I'm interested in, games and building PCs. But when you look, you can do it on anything. But when you look at this genre or going out there and making something that's going to be what you think is fun, like people would think gaming is fun. Well, here's the thing. There is a job aspect to doing that once you get to a certain level in anything you do. And so there are things that become a drudgery. Now, I'm not going to say, listen, I love to come out here and share information. I really do. But at the same time, man, week to week, it just seems like I'm always up against the wall. I need to redo some things in my office. I need to get some things done, and I can't get that done. So I just have to go water off a duck's back. Not a big deal. Let's move along. So, anyways, Paco, from when you look at your business and the ebbs and flows that you have gone through, what do you do to protect yourself from not letting the lows get you too low and not letting the highs get your head so big that you can't walk through a door?
Purchase a firearm. No, I'm kidding. That is not an endorsement of firearms, but I'm just saying. No, I think it was you got to have a different mindset to really keep control. That's the that I forgot what the term is called, but having that emotional IQ, I think is what it's called. But essentially, you have to understand yourself, and then you have to understand how to battle yourself, because your greatest critic is going to be yourself, and you're going to be the hardest on yourself. So how do you help negate those negative thoughts on that type of situation? But I think the bigger piece of it is you always want to stay humble as well. So I think what ends up happening is that, we'll use the high example where, there are IT companies or there are business owners that have, received some type of accolade or got their big giant client, right? And now they're set, they feel, and things are going good for them. They end up becoming content, right? And they become, they kind of get stuck in the norm, and that's kind of how it happens from there. And I'm guilty of that, from before, where, things were going good. I was on auto drive, things were great. But when a big hit happens, that's when things start to get a little squirrely. And then you have to really figure out, okay, how do I level myself off, right? How do I make this not as bad? Because I think if you think of the phrase that life happens for you, not to you, you look at things a little bit differently. At least that's my belief. And I think when I started adopting that phrase, I've, changed a lot of vocabulary and wordings of certain things, where bad days are not bad days. They're character building days. What did I learn from that day? In no business, even now there are days that, I think I can remember 2 weeks ago, on Monday, everything that could be on fire was on fire. And the first time in 20 years, I came home and I said, I don't want to look at one digital screen. And I've heard that from other coworkers, and when I was in corporate America, and other colleagues were like, look, I looked at a screen all day today from work. I don't even want to look at it. But since I love technology so much, I'm always either on my phone or on my computer doing the next thing. That was the first time that I said, don't even want to look at it. I don't even want to see my phone. Took everything out, put it in the room. I kept my watch on in case my daughter called me. That was all that I can go from there, right? But I think the biggest piece of it to understand is that when you do those highs and lows, when you get to a low, I think everyone tries to get back to getting to that high. And I think that's a mistake. I think what you need to do is try and level yourself off to get back to some type of a baseline that you're happy with, and then maintaining that. And when the highs happen, great. It's a, cherry on top, essentially, right? It's going better than what you thought it should, but making yourself humble and keep striving for more. That's really how you try to battle the ups and downs. Now, it's easier said than done, because you need a support force. You need a lot of systems in place. I mean, and you got to learn from these lessons, right? And that's the purpose of this type of community, right? I think the real reason is that when some of us are in our own island, we don't know what to do or seek help and things of that nature. And that's the main reason why people listen to talking heads like us, because they're trying to learn something and they're hoping to get something out of watching whatever content they see, whether it's this, whether it's sales, things of that nature, is really what you want to try and do for yourself, is understand where you're at. How do you get to that baseline? And as you go through these ups and downs, you will understand over time, because it's just an experience game. There is no other way to really understand it other than going through it, on making that baseline and understanding when your ups and downs are going to go, and then trying to even it out as best as possible.
Man, that is really good, Paco, because I think what you just said was, if you have this middle area where you're kind of, because you want your business somewhat on an autopilot, right? Because at the end of the day, whether you have employees or it's just yourself, you only have so many hours in a day. Now you can multiply that hours by employees. You can multiply those hours by remote services that you employ into these computer systems. But at the end of the day, you want to get to this point where you're kind of on autopilot, but always looking to improve and make things better. So when things are going smooth, as Paco said, that's the time everybody kind of sits back and it's like, okay, that's when you really need to dive in and go, what could I make a little bit better? And it might be just a small tweak, in it that will put you up over the top. I think a lot of times people are really striving to go out there and I'm like, I'm going to be a multi-million-dollar business. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And at the end of the day, if that's not what makes you happy, which I don't believe that money makes people happy. It really doesn't. A lot of times with more money comes more responsibility. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In money, there's nothing wrong with money. But at the end of the day, you got to see where you're at and what margins you have in your life, what you can do. Because if you're constantly, and I will tell you, I'm telling you from absolute experience, if you're always chasing a dollar and thinking that at the end of the day, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, I am telling you right now, it is not a light, it is a train. So when you're looking at the end of the tunnel, no, you want to get to the end. You want to get to the end of the rainbow with the gold pot. But that gold pot is going to be different for everyone. Not everyone needs to be a multimillionaire. And again, I'm not against any of that. If that's where you want to be, if you want to employ thousands of people, man, go for it. That's awesome. That's your passion. I think a lot of other people who could have a great life maintaining their business, maintaining their family, and doing good things in their community and all these things, in deriving self-worth out of that and making a good living. In other words, I think when you're at a comfortable point, that means you're not worried about if a medical bill comes up or if an illness happens or if you can't work, whatever. All these things that happen that are going to happen in life, if you set yourself up to a place where doesn't matter what happens, it doesn't impact you financially, then to me, that's a comfortable position. That is really what I think people should be striving for. And again, for every person, it's going to be a little bit different. If your self-worth is based around money, you got another thing coming, because I'm telling you right now, that has nothing to do with anything. And it can seem temporarily to make things better, but I'm going to tell you right now, the more you make, the more you spend.
That's for sure.
In place, you're going to spend more, because that is just human nature. And if you can beat human nature, good on you, but I haven't seen it yet. Human nature is nature. People are going to do what they want to do. We're all products of that. And it's just kind of the way it works. So in order to stop that from your business, you need to have a solid plan. And again, it's what I would call a comfortability plan. I don't think anybody really talks about this, because everybody wants to be the person on top. When it comes to streamers, I'm looking at these streamers, and there's only a handful that are like in the millions of views or whatever, thousands of views or thousands watching their stream or whatever it is. Doesn't really matter. Most people, 99%, have one or two people watching their streams. 99%. So you're looking at 1%. And it's probably, actually, the numbers wise, it's probably less than that. So if you want to be that person, if that's your goal, I don't think that should be your goal. I think your goal should be to what will make my life good and worthwhile while I'm here on this earth. Because again, there's only so many years. We all have an end time, and that's just the way it is. So if you're like me and you think that eventually I'm going to get there and then I'm just going to sit back, eat bonbons, watch movies, no, that's not going to happen. It just doesn't. I'm going to tell you right now, as you get older, and some of you young kids out there won't understand this, but you will. As you get older, I don't know what it is, your life gets busier. I have adult children that don't live in this household, and it's still keeping up with them and doing this and dealing with the children that are still in this household. There's always something going on. And so you gotta think about those things. Any thoughts, Paco, on that?
So yes, children would always speed time up in general. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things from what you said. The first one is the misconception of money, right? I think a lot of people chase the money, but they have to understand they're actually chasing freedom, which is what you're talking about. I think it's the fact of what at what point will you be able to do what you want to do freely? You know,
Yes. Good.
the
Yeah,
moment
you put it much better than I could have put it. Thank you, Paco.
you know, trying to achieve that freedom, right? And I think that's why everyone tries to go into the entrepreneurship route is, you know, it's the misconception of money to go into that. And really what needs to be really viewed at is, you know, a lot of people want to become this $1 million MSP or this $1 million IT business, right? And that's great. That's fine, you know, or they want to be a millionaire, right? But what they don't understand is that if you look at the numbers in the US, the top 1%, the average amount is $400,000. $400,000 is makes you part of the 1% in the United States. So, and of course, I'm talking to those in the States. I didn't do the research for everyone else internationally listening, but when it comes to this, so that misconception of making that million to be free is a narrative that is being posted by all these wannabe social influencers and all these ads you see, and hey, I have the best secrets for you here, click here for my marketing plan. You know, everything needs to be done with work, right? And I think at this point, you know, if you focus on the freedom piece, that is going to help you a lot on what you're going to do with your journey. So for example, for us, you know, my thing was, I think my previous bad decisions on, you know, with loans and credit and things of that nature, that's been on the forefront this past year. Now I'm at a point where I've kind of eliminated all that and I'm close to being that debt free. But that was the goal that I had to work at, being for 2 years and getting my credit up and whatnot. And for those that have heard my journey back in the end of 2017, I mean, it was a very rough ride to the point where, you know, I just didn't know I was going to make it toward the end of 2018. Right. So that's just something to keep in mind, is that whatever it is that helps you achieve that freedom, if it's doing this business part-time, you know, leaving your 9 to 5 because it's stressing you out, you hate going in there and you want to be the control of your freedom, you know, all of these pieces together is something of what's going to allow you to be free. And if money's going to take care of that, how much you need for that, not this, you know, ambiguous goal of I need to be $1 million because that's what the cool thing everyone's doing, right? You will get there. You know, if you plow down and you look up, you end up getting there. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of people too, when I was talking, there was a interviewer that had called me, and I can't remember what magazine it was from. This was a couple years back. Kind of the whole, I think when the whole man in the van thing kind of came about, and I think Marvin B was being talked about, and they were talking about the solopreneurs and all that kind of stuff. And the guy proceeded to tell me, you know, we were just trying to find out my take on this whole, can you do an IT business as a solopreneur? And I'm like, yeah, I know people that do it and they do it well and they make a good living doing it. I know those people. Some of them are my friends. And he said he knows a guy that was pulling in $1 million gross revenue as a solopreneur. Now, a lot of people go, "Oh, that's impossible." No, it's not. Because if you have actually leverage your vendors to do a lot of that back end work for you, you absolutely can do it. You're just out there pounding the pavement. So, and here's the kicker. It was all residential work. Now, you'll have people tell you, "Oh, residential work's gone. MSP is the only way to go." Bull. That's all I'm going to say about that, because we don't swear on the show. But bull. That is not the way.
I sure wish we did.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Family friendly. So when you look at some things that you want to do in your business and somebody tells you you can't do it that way, I'm going to tell you right now, this is just me, and I'm just going to be an arrogant beep. So if somebody tells you you can't do something some way and they're adamant about it, I'm going to tell you, stop listening to that person. I'm just going to be point blank honest. Just stop it, because I'm going to tell you that there are hundreds, if not thousands, of ways of doing this business. Here's the one thing I found out. Literally talking to thousands of business owners over the last 6 years, I'm going to tell you right now, most people, and I'm going to say most, do not do business the same. They don't. They do it differently. And you know what's so cool about that? You can do it your way. Difference between McDonald's and Burger King, you can have the standard, whatever McDonald's gives you, or if you want it your way, you can go to Burger King. Are they still around?
Yeah, that's their one. But kind of going on what you said, I think that's a huge piece that people have to understand. And I'm going to add a little twist to what you said as well, is you running your business is running it your way, right? And I think the ability of listening to other like-minded IT businesses your size will help you be more creative on what you're trying to do, right? And I think that's the reason why we have these conferences, and I think why it's needed to be in person, because you from every IT business owner, every tech, every owner that I've spoke with, vendor, etc., the information and the value they get at attending an event is not the content 9 times out of 10, or maybe 8 times out of 10, but it's when they're talking to their peers in that table, in that group, in the hallway. And that's when they understand that piece of, man, and that's when they get the light bulb. They're excited, they're rejuvenated, and they want to go back home. But so you could do it your way, right? The important piece to understand is that oftentimes you're not alone in the way you're thinking and how you do things, especially with the vendors that you do. So for example, I happen to use Synchro PSA and Synchro RMM, right? And I have a lot of colleagues that use that, and so I talk to them more times than not just to understand, okay, this is how I'm trying to do. I was talking to Rick the other day, who I mentioned earlier in the show, who happens to use Synchro. And by reading that book I mentioned to last show, PSA Profitability, I found out that Synchro had this. I didn't find out. I knew about the feature, but I just never explored it. And now I'm able to use bundles to help get my MSP planning, my proactive plans in a better spot as I'm doing my other integration. So I just became a little bit more efficient by talking to him, because he's already been doing it for that piece. And then you bounce those ideas back and forth. So to say basically what I'm trying to say is that although you may believe you're alone in your thinking because you hear the norm of you need to do it this way with these set of tools, there are other people more times than not that are doing it. May not be exactly how you're doing it, but you can leverage them and help each other out with your both perspectives, because that's how you grow. So, and that's how I've been lucky enough to do that over the last years, being involved with here and the Partners Network before and things of that nature.
Very well said. And there's 2 ways to learn out there. You can learn from your own experiences, which we talk about is the life of hard knocks, is what a lot of people will call that. Yep. You get knocked down, you get back up. Or you can also learn from other people's experiences. And a lot of times if you have somebody that says, hey, here's what I did and here's how it didn't work out for me, It's not necessarily saying that that's not going to work out for you, but it's something to be aware of. And it's something, if somebody brings it to your attention, maybe that's a different way you can look at it. You go, you know what? I kind of see their perspective, and maybe we need to do a little tweak or a change on this to make this work for us. And that's where it's important. Yes, it's very important to listen to people out there. There's just too many people, in my opinion, that go out there and they're adamant about this is the way it's got to be. And I'm like going, no, that's not how life works. And I don't
Get those
understand
type of people away from me.
Yeah.
Because I, if there's one pet peeve I have is an IT business owner in a forum saying, you're an idiot, you're not doing it the right way, or that vendor is garbage because of my experience. And it was like something from like 5 years ago. So like perfect example. I was talking to a local IT business owner here. We were talking about partnerships and stuff like that and building a relationship. And, you know, he mentioned that he went with a vendor that I previously used, but, you know, my experience at the time, I kind of explained to him what it was, but I explained to him, this was my experience 4 or 5 years ago. It wasn't now. Things change, right? And people hold on to these perceptions of these companies. And I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to say something probably not very, that a lot of people are going to say, why did he say that? And, you know, it's my opinion. You can disagree with it. I care less. But, you know, I think that from what I'm hearing from other IT businesses that gave this vendor a shot, PCmatic. I've heard that they are doing a lot of great stuff right now, and especially in the way that they're doing their zero trust and protections on that type of system. And obviously they've shifted on their visibility. And again, this is not an endorsement of PCmatic. This is just me of my observation of PCmatic, where a lot of people are still knocking them for their cheesy commercials that they did on the consumer side. Right. And there's been plenty of interviews that they did with them. And I think that past perception of certain vendors and grudges sticking with an IT professional or an IT business owner tends to weigh down on their opinions and it's being stated as fact. And that's my pet peeve, where, you know, it's, you have to say it's your opinion. Like, it is your opinion. It is not fact. Like, unless the law went ahead and took them down for some X amount of money because they were doing shading dealings, everyone has their right to opinions of what's going on. And sometimes those opinions are wrong because of misinformation as well. So I say to all that, if you have a way and you think it's successful and it's working right, don't let some jerk kind of just tell you, yeah, I kind of slipped, some jerk to just tell you that that's not the way you need to do it, or you're doing it with the wrong vendor, or they're not, whatever. If it works for you and you have a great relationship, continue to keep pushing. You know, I think there was a few vendors that I was using at the time where a lot of people were like, really? You're not using this new $1,000 tool that should have been it? You know, it's just a matter of really just sticking to your guns, having faith in what you've chosen. Now, there are opportunities to improve, and that's your opinion and your decision to make. Don't let your decisions be swayed by someone else, because that's just the standard of what everyone's using.
Yeah, that's well said. I think too, a lot of times that you have to remember that just as you are a human being, the people that are running companies, that are working for companies, are also human beings. We expect that because somebody is selling a product or service that they're going to do 100% what is supposed to be right. Well, here's the thing. You don't do 100% of what's supposed to be right in your business. And if you do, email jeff@mspunplugged.com. Let's get you on the show and let's talk about it, because I want to hear somebody's story where they've never made a mistake. We'll talk about it. All right. So
yeah, you're lying if you say you didn't make a mistake. That's what it is.
But when you look at these companies and you look at, sometimes companies will reinvent themselves. And maybe here's the problem. I said this years ago. The problem and the reason that these companies, if you think about the low margins in a lot of things that we use in our business, if you think about that from a standpoint of these companies, a lot of times will sell to consumers to make the difference. Here's why. Because IT business owners as a whole, not going to say everybody, and I never put everybody in the same barrel, but as a whole group, we're some of the cheapest non-frugal people that I know. And the reason I say that is because everybody wants something for free, but they want to charge a high premium dollar to their customer to work on their stuff. And again, there's products and services out there that you can use for free, and maybe it's a little more manual operation instead of automated. There's services you can pay for; they're more automated and makes your life a little bit better. It just depends on what's going to work for you, what's going to work for your workflow. But companies can change over time and become better. And I'm not endorsing any companies out there. I personally, I would wish that these companies that want to deal in the information technology field would look to us as the reseller. But again, most of us suck at sales, so that's kind of a hard thing. I would want them to be channel friendly. And the reason I say that is especially for some of the stuff where you're doing a lot of back end stuff on your clients' business computers, their offices, stuff like that. I think it's very important that you have that type of relationship. But it's tough because we keep the margins. The margins are already low, and so a lot of these companies will make that up just by selling to consumers. And so I think we've kind of caused the problem ourselves, and nobody wants to admit that. But again, that is not my opinion. That is absolutely fact. We are cheap. Anyways.
If that isn't the truth. But I think, I think our concept of, again, going back to the concept of cost and money is where we are in our journey, right? Like if I were to look at myself back in 2013 and what I'm spending now on vendors versus what back then, I'm pretty sure it wasn't even probably more than 3/4 what I was spending or what I was getting paid to spend for these vendors, right? And it's just all, as your own growth. That's why we always say, like, if you're starting out, get a screwdriver set, buy as you need, things of that nature. Don't go all out and hope that the customers will come. If the customer need is there, then that's when you want to go ahead and purchase and acquire, things of that nature. So I think that's a big piece where a lot of people need to understand that, you are on your own journey and be comfortable with what you're willing to spend. But I keep saying this, it's always great to be frugal, but don't be cheap. Yes. Because you're being cheap for no reason, just because you could save $3 over here and 2 cents over there, and you're spending, your going rate of anywhere between $75 to $150 to $175 an hour to implement that $3 fix may not be worth it, right? And I think a lot of people don't really take labor into effect because they feel like, oh, it's my time to give. It costs me nothing, right? And it may be true, I think that there's a saying that they say that if you either need to throw money at the problem or you need to throw in the hard work. And if you don't have the money, then roll up your sleeves, right? Because that's your form of currency. So that is something to consider when you're going through your journey and understand, man, this product would be really great for me to do. It would help me save XYZ. This is why I'm going to go ahead and invest in it. Like, that's how you should be thinking versus saying, well, that software costs $2.50 an endpoint and I'm only paying $1. I'm not going to pay an extra $1.50 because I'll never get that paid back. That's the wrong mentality, in my opinion, because you need to really understand what you're doing for your services and then assemble the right tools that are going to help make your job easier, because whatever makes your job easier is going to make your client's job easier. And I stole that from John Dubinsky many, many times.
That's very good. Yeah, you're going to pay in one of two ways, time or money. And here's my advice that I give to people, and this is the way I think everybody should do it. This is my opinion. But I think you'll find it is an easier path. If you are so busy that you can't get 8 hours of sleep at night, hang out with a family, eat proper meals, exercise, then that's the time that you have to change things. In other words, you might have to hire an employee. Maybe that's the time. If that's your goal, if that's the way you're going, then maybe it's time to hire an employee. Maybe it's an office staff, somebody to take care of the back end books, whatever, or tools. Maybe you need some automated tools so that you're not manually having to go in and do the tasks you're supposed to do. But like Paco said, in the beginning, you usually have time. That's why you're putting it into something. So you need to get to the point where it's like you literally don't have time to have a good life. And then you purchase whatever you need to move the business up. And so I think a lot of people, they do it prematurely. And here's the problem. So here's what I've seen from a lot of business owners out there that do have employees is that it's when you hire an employee, it's always a sticker shock. It's always a culture change. And you have to look at it like this. You are going to, yes, you are temporarily going to lose personal revenue or business revenue, but it's temporary. And when I say temporary, we're looking at probably maybe a 30-day period. But the person that's going to be able to take that, because if your business is growing, it's going to continue to grow. Now you're just going to be able to take care of things better, quicker, faster, $6 million man wise. For those of you that don't understand that reference, that is an old show. Look it up. So, but when you think about what you need to do in your business on a regular basis, just think about these things as far as, okay, I'm going to invest some money into making my business better. However, I'm going to do it. But I think a lot of people they're afraid of that. Oh, wait, but that's going to cost me revenue. Yes, temporarily. But most of the times it will turn around fairly quickly. And your business will grow exponentially at that point. And you can't tell people about that and make them believe you. The only thing a person can do is go through that themselves. And hey, maybe you do a temporary hire, whether it's an intern or just a temporary hire or a part-time hire or whatever it might be, so that you can kind of, move into that new realm of what you're doing and see how it's working out. Because again, if a person or tool is not a help in your business, it's probably time to get rid of that person or tool and move on to something else. And maybe temporarily you have to do things manually or till you can find something. But there's different ways to look at those situations.
One, and I think that specifically you have to understand too, as far as for everyone, is that don't be afraid to make that jump or chance as well. Like you're going to spend money that you wish you didn't. I mean, that's just the nature of the business. I mean, I can't tell you how many thousands of dollars that I've wasted because I went with a specific vendor, or I did a certain process, or I thought this was going to work with this outsourced help desk, that closed overnight, and, things like that. That's just the business tax. That's just the dues you got to pay into in order to kind of go through where you're going to get to right now. Right. And then, going to employees, which we added 4 going on 5 coming up this Monday, exactly that. Not only are you going to have temporary loss of revenue that you'll have to regain, which hopefully this employee will bring 2.5 times their worth of what you're paying them, but 2, the time that you have to invest as well. I mean, you have to really make sure that the hardest part with running the business as a solo business owner or tech, and breaking out your brain and making it transparent for everyone to see, is you have to designate all those roles, and you have to figure out how you're going to delegate it and delegate it properly. And then making sure you document it well for them to be able to see it. We barely can document our own stack that we're using for clients. I'm not saying document client systems and client networks. I'm talking about documenting our own things, let alone try and break it out to be a transparent piece, and employing and deploying software and making a centralized place where everyone could be on the same page. Right. And these are some of those hiccups that you just kind of learn through. And that's why you have to look at resources and communities to kind of help in that piece, because people have gone through it as well. But temporary revenue loss, and you're going to have a lot of time you have to invest in the beginning, because eventually you will be able to get that time back moving forward, because that's the whole point of you getting someone on your team.
Very good. All right, Paco, we're coming up to the end of our talk here. I think we've shared a lot of good information, and if nothing else, we've entertained you and given you something to think about. And so hopefully that is helpful. Now, I'm going to tell you, are we going to mention anything about something that may be coming up next year?
So me and you are on the same wavelength, because I was actually going to ask, should we kind of tease on what's happening next year?
Dude, I am
And
excited. I've not been excited about something in a long time, and I'm telling you, with the deals that Paco is amazing, and the deals that Paco has made, I'm just like going, wow. Because I'm telling you right now, it was me by myself trying to put something together. It absolutely would not happen. It just wouldn't happen. So I appreciate everything that Paco's going in. So Paco, I'm going to leave it to you. I'm up for whatever. What do you want to share with the audience? Because here's the one thing I will say. I really want the audience buy-in on this when we launch this thing, and I want this to be something that's just amazing. So go ahead and tease what you want.
So I think that, why don't we do this? I think, we have a week till we have our next show next week. If we would love to be able to announce what we have when tickets are ready for sale. So I will let the audience kind of either email us, or we can post a poll on the Facebook group if you haven't supported us, which over at Patreon, which Jeff will go into in a bit. But I will give it a week, and I will ask this question: do you guys want to know where and when TechNut Unplugged will be happening before ticket sales are available and ready to get sold, or would you prefer for us to announce it and tickets are available the moment we announce it so you can purchase? So I will leave that to the audience to let us know. And next week we will figure out if we are going to go ahead and announce it, or we will wait until the tickets are available. So I will tell you that it will be at a new venue, but that's all I will go ahead and share for now.
That's good. I like that. And Robert E in the chat says you guys are bad with that teasing. Yeah, sorry.
So yeah, and the reason why, for my mindset of it, is because I'm the type of person that, for my opinion, I hate when to hear something announced and I can't get it right away. Right? Like stupid Apple. They announced their iPhone 12, but I got to pre-order it and wait a week because they announced it. Right? That's the only example that comes to my mind. I know Jeff just stuck a fork in his eye.
Threw up in my mouth, but thanks.
Yep.
Anyways,
there you go. But that's kind of where I am on that. So if you guys want to know, and then, because the reason why we're saying is because we got to work with Matt over at Tech Marketing Engine to get the website updated, get the plugins done, and re-update for the ticket purchases. So it's really up to you. So we can wait till the tickets are ready to purchase, or next week we can let everyone know where we're going to be and when it's going to happen.
Very good. Yeah. And also, Paco sent me over several contracts we have to sign. So I've got to get those signed and get those back over to him. And I'll get that done this week amongst my other 10,000 different things I have to do. But hey, it is what it is, man. You know what? At the end of the day, I just, when I think about these things, I just have to go, it's okay. And I just said, it's okay. It's okay with what I've accomplished. It's okay. And you know what? The next day I'll accomplish more, and the next day I'll accomplish more after that. And so I just have to look at life that way, and it makes you a more calm, reserved. Well, I'm never reserved, but it makes me a little more calm. So let's talk about this real quick before we get out of here. And if you would like to support this show, and we would love your support, because you people are the ones that make this happen. And obviously we've changed the show a little bit as far as the title and stuff like that, but it's still the same offerings that we've had in the past. And one of the things that we want to do is, if you become a Patreon supporter by going to patreon.com/MSP Unplugged, that will get you into the super secret Facebook group. And yes, I'm still calling it that. Eventually, it will get you into something new that probably doesn't have anything to do with Facebook, because we want to kind of do our own thing. We want to kind of pull away. Facebook is easy because it's there. So that's what we do right now. And there's great conversations that go on there every single day almost, with people asking questions, getting answers to their questions, and hopefully getting helped. Obviously, questions have to be asked in order to get answers, but everybody is very helpful with their good answers. And hey, try this. Hey, do that. How about this? Did you think about this? And I love that type of response in those things. So
Yeah, I'm really excited because this is a project that I kind of mentioned when we first started MSP Unplugged last year, or I'm sorry, earlier this year. It feels like it's last year already.
I know.
Um,
Where'd the year go?
right. And I'm super excited because we have some really fun ideas that we're going to try and do to keep the community together and really expand. And just some capabilities that Facebook doesn't allow us to kind of do on certain things. So it's going to be a good time. I think it'll be great. Obviously, we're going to take the audience feedback on what we're doing because, again, we're here for you. Because if it weren't for you, we wouldn't be here in the first place because we wouldn't put ourselves through all this. But the biggest piece of it is
Got that right.
yeah. So so some more exciting news. Again, it's a slow and burn with us, as everyone know. We rebranded the show, after the success of TechNut Unplugged in 2019. Unfortunately, we couldn't see you all this year. What would have been a couple weeks ago, which hopefully we will correct that mistake. Or really not a mistake because it's out of our hands, but we will correct that hopefully next year in 2021, and we'll kind of just go from there.
Sounds good. I want to thank you all that continuously support us. We definitely appreciate it. And, in order to do anything that we do into the future, it's going to take 5 things: money, 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 and time. So,
But did you mention money?
yeah, exactly. So, it takes money to do anything. And so with the support of our Patreon supporters and other things that, people gift us with, we definitely appreciate it. And it helps us move forward in making this a better, more robust community that everybody can benefit from. Because guess what, people? Doesn't matter what we talk about in IT, it's not going away. Especially in today's day and age, when we really talk about all the things that are going on right now, doesn't matter. It's not going away. Support is going to be support, and you're going to need it through the end of time, as far as I can tell.
And the robots will need us eventually.
That's right. Do their labor.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, excuse me. All right, Paco, if anybody wanted to find you, where you're at, where could they do that?
They can find me on this fine programming every Friday afternoon because it is noon Eastern, which is 11 Central my time, so it's still morning. But you can find me here, or you can always connect with me over on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to talk and chat, or if you got any topics or vendors you'd like to see on the show, obviously you can hit me up on the Facebook group over for our MSP Unplugged's secret private Facebook group.
Very cool. All right. You can also watch live and hang out in our chat room over on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged. Hit that subscribe button and, hit the notification bell so that you know when these are coming live. If this is something you want to watch live, and there's a lot of people out there and we are busy, so we need those reminders. So go ahead and do that. And I'd also ask that if you want to listen to this in audio format, subscribe to your favorite podcasting app, whatever it is. It could be, I don't know, there's a million out there, but whatever app you're using, most of you are probably using iPhones, podcast app. Just, do a search in there and subscribe to the show. That way you get it automatically downloaded, ready to listen to when you're in the vehicle each and every week. And I want to thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time on MSP Unplugged.